Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in Rome without wealth, without privileges, and without a toga? Well, yes. While the patricians parade with fine fabrics and power in their hands, I'm here, amid the bustling streets, trying not to be swallowed up by routine. Stay with me until the end. What you're about to discover now may surprise you. Today you'll follow my day, not as a distant spectator, but almost as if you were right there beside me, treading the cobblestones of the Via Sacra and smelling the early morning bread baking. My name is Lucius, a commoner. I live in a cramped insula in the Subura neighborhood, a working-class area of Rome where voices are loud, smells are intense, and life is very real. It's the year 114 AD, under the rule of Emperor Trajan, he of the columns and victorious military campaigns. But here, where soldiers don't march and senators don't appear, the story is different, and that's what I want to tell you about. The sun is just beginning to illuminate the rooftops of Rome, and I'm already up. Not because I'm an early riser by choice, but because the noise of carts and the shouts of vendors invade my window as if they were part of my morning alarm. My first gesture of the day, thanking the Lars, the household gods. Without them, I wouldn't even set foot outside. And you? Do you have any sacred rituals in your routine? Breakfast? Stale bread soaked in diluted wine. No exotic fruits or fine meats. Those are the stuff of patrician banquets. Here the food is simple, but it has history, and how it does. Did you know that garum, that fermented fish sauce beloved by Romans, can be more valuable than gold to some? Stay tuned. I'll show you what I eat for lunch. But the day goes on. Work? Of course I do. I'm not a gladiator or a scribe. That's for those with influence. I'm a simple artisan. I make small ceramic pieces to sell at the market. It's not much, but it's what ensures my survival. Some days are better than others. Have you ever experienced this? Sometimes I stop to listen to the gossip on the forum, or I go to the public baths to breathe, sweat, and forget for a few minutes that life is heavy. There, everyone becomes equal, rich and poor, naked under the warm water, exchanging ideas and jokes. A respite from the chaos of the city. At every corner I turn, every face I see, I realize Rome isn't just made of statues and imperial victories. It's made of ordinary people like me, people who believe in gods who chase bread, who dream of climbing just one more step. The toga, I can't wear it, it's a status symbol. What I wear is the tunic, basic, functional, a little sweaty, but it's what accompanies me as I explore this vast expanse of stone and history. So, are you ready to join me for the day? There's still a lot to see. My habits, my beliefs, my dilemmas, because living as a Roman plebeian is challenging, intriguing, and perhaps inspiring. And the next step of this journey begins soon. And look, as I walk the cobblestone streets, dodging carts and listening to the city's hustle and bustle, I sometimes find myself wondering, would anyone alive today face all this like I did? If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. It could be the way we start our day, our rituals with the gods, or even the aroma of that simple bread with diluted wine. Your opinion matters more than you might think. By the way, if you've enjoyed being with me so far, following the daily life of a Roman commoner as if you were a longtime friend, don't forget to leave a like. It helps me understand that this content is making a difference, and it further motivates this journey through the real Rome, which goes beyond battles and golden statues. And of course, if you want to continue exploring this world with me, discover more stories hidden within the ancient walls, and understand how Rome pulsates beyond the palaces, subscribe to the channel. Your participation is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of content. Together, we can bring to life these forgotten voices who built empires with their own hands. Now, let's move on, because the day is just beginning, and there's much more to experience among the alleys and beliefs of the empire. The first light of day barely touches the city's rooftops, and I can already feel the buzz of Rome awakening. The sun isn't just a sign of warmth. It's the commoner's natural alarm clock. We have no clocks, no servants to summon us, and waking early is almost a reflex of survival. When my eyes open, the first sound is the creaking of wooden carts passing on the road below, followed by squabbling voices, merchants, neighbors, and children running through the narrow streets of the Subura. On my island, my routine begins with saving. I use little water because it's expensive, and the tank doesn't always have enough. Hygiene is limited to a quick wash. of my face and hands. If I'm lucky, I can use clean water. The smell of smoke from the makeshift kitchens already permeates the air, mixed with the strong aroma of olive oil and stale bread. But before anything else, I stop before the small stone structure in the corner of the room. It's where my Lars live, household gods who protect the home and the paths. I add a pinch of salt to the fire and murmur silent words, because without their blessing, I wouldn't even leave the house. It's a simple, almost automatic gesture, but it carries an invisible force, a connection that, even without tangible proof, guides every decision. Many people today might find this devotion to the spirits of the home strange. Some would call it superstition, others tradition. But for me, it's about identity, about a bond with something that can't be explained but rather felt. The Roman mentality is steeped in this. Belief, ritual, and custom intermingle with the most banal routine, and this hidden truth of everyday life is what sustains our journey. It doesn't matter if we're noble or common, we all have something we venerate, even if it's just the silence before the chaos. After the offering, I put on my tunic. Nothing fancy, no gold embroidery. It's simple, rough, and already patched, but it's my daily armor. As I step outside, sunlight illuminates the tired faces on the stairs and in the windows. The city is alive, pulsating, and everyone is pursuing their purpose. I see men carrying firewood, women trading vegetables, children selling sweets on the street corner. Everything happens at once. It's as if Rome never truly sleeps. The impact of this routine isn't just on the tasks I perform, but on how it shapes who I am. The choices I make, waking up with the sun, respecting homes, accepting scarcity, are decisions that reveal much more than meets the eye. They're the backstage of a life many don't see. There's no glamour, no political rhetoric. There's sweat, faith, and a persistence that's renewed every morning. And that in itself is a daily transformation. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because everything that happens after first light reveals even more about who we are. The conversations in the markets, the encounters in the baths, the glances exchanged in the narrow alleys, all of this builds the invisible fabric of the real Rome. And it is within this fabric that my day continues, full of challenges, revelations, and small victories. Comment. This makes sense to me. Just open the door to my insula, and you can feel Rome breathing, sometimes gasping. The building where I live is old, cramped, and made of wood and poorly aligned stone. It's stacked several stories high, with narrow staircases that creak whenever someone runs past or tries to climb them with a bucket of water. Everything is so close together. The rooms are small, almost always dark, and the sound of neighbors is so present it seems part of the decor. Children cry, adults argue, over prices at the market, and the constant smell of smoke permeates every crevice, a sign that the fires are already lit and the bread is beginning to bake. There's no privacy as you might imagine today. Here, the collective is inevitable. I share walls, sounds, and even concerns with others. And as chaotic as it may seem, there's something deeply human about it. The exchange of glances through the window, the quick greetings on the stairs, that silent gesture of someone sharing a bit of olive oil when the pantry runs low. Even simple, this is where everything happens. It's in this close coexistence that unexpected friendships emerge and even small rivalries that are part of our dynamic. I've witnessed passions born among the vegetable stalls and friendships torn apart by a piece of poorly cut cheese. Each story pulses with its own hidden truth. The sound that dominates this part of the city is a blend of life and survival. The rumble of carts mingling with the clamor of merchants, the cries of mothers calling to their children, and the animals roaming the alleys. Everything fits together into a rhythm that, over time, becomes almost comforting. Some find it maddening, but I've learned to listen to this chaos, as if listening to a ritual chant, a constant reminder that I'm at the center of something greater. The impact of living like this is not only on the senses, but on the mindset we develop. We learn early to adapt our desires to reality. We crave space, but embrace proximity. We dream of silence, but become part of the daily symphony. The smell also tells its own story. It's strong and striking, a mixture of freshly baked bread, heated olive oil, wood smoke, and, sometimes, something less pleasant. But it's this aroma that announces that life is happening. Bread, for example, is almost a common language. The neighbor who bakes first usually shares it with someone, and when there's a shortage, the smell of bread from across the island brings not only hunger, but also the memory of possibility. All this happens while we bump into each other, while we speak loudly, while we jostle for space to dry clothes or rest after a long day. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this physical environment, with all its limitations, also shapes what we feel and believe. There's an invisible force that grows in this kind of coexistence, a form of unity that doesn't require epic speeches, just gestures and intertwined stories. A commoner's journey isn't written in glory, but in details hidden in the creaking stairs and sweaty walls of the insulas. It's in this cramped space that we find the value of resilience and the daily choices that sustained Rome long before the emperors. Right there. I'm on this journey too. As soon as the ritual with the homes ends and the city begins to heat up, my stomach grumbles. The smell of bread from the bakery on the corner spreads like a promise. But here, there's no feast, only reality. My breakfast is the same as almost every day. Pieces of dry bread dipped in watered-down wine. Sometimes I manage to find olive oil, and when that happens, it's as if the day has already started with luck. It's not flavor that nourishes, it's persistence. I chew slowly, looking up at the sky between the ragged rooftops and trying to remember the last time I tasted something truly fresh. While the patricians enjoy exotic fruits from the provinces, aged cheeses and even oysters brought straight from the sea, I chew on history. Each bite connects me to generations who survived with what they had. The contrast between the lavish banquet tables and this rustic bread reveals more than social classes. It reveals mentalities. They celebrate excess, we celebrate resistance. And in this silent ritual of breaking bread, there is more hidden truth than in the speeches echoing in the forums. Some people call this poverty, but it's not exactly that. It's adaptation, a way of living within the limits without losing sight of what matters. The flavor may be scarce, but the meaning is profound. Eating amidst hushed conversations, with the sound of carts in the background and the smell of burning wood, makes for an intimate experience. A meal isn't an event, it's a framework for survival, and I've learned that even the simplest gestures have an impact. The way we hold bread, how we share when someone shows up hungry, how we offer even knowing there might not be enough tomorrow. I've witnessed scenes that have left a lasting impression on me. A child offering half his bread to an old man without being told to. There was no wealth there, but there was greatness. These moments shape our journey. They are choices made without fanfare, but they define who we are. There are silent revelations in the way we feed ourselves, and even though this bread may not taste like a feast, it carries the weight of decisions that sustain the empire. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because food, even simple food, isn't just on the plate. It's what it represents. It shows who has access, who shares, who dreams of more. And from this no-frills breakfast onward, the day gains direction. Tasks call, work awaits, and Rome continues its unstoppable pace. After the first meal, however modest, it's time to get down to work. Literally, there's no room for laziness when bread depends on the strength of one's own body. As a commoner, I'm a craftsman. I mold pottery, small bowls, simple vases. Nothing that would end up in the salons of the patricians, but everything essential for the popular markets. The work begins early and ends when the sunlight departs. There's no fixed schedule, only constant necessity, and this necessity dictates the mindset of almost everyone around me. The most curious thing is to realize how our work sustains everything that seems grand in Rome. The statues? Someone carved them. The buildings? Someone carried each stone. The senators? Banquets? They were served in pots made by hands like mine. The hidden truth of Roman grandeur is that it rises from the toil of the invisible. Without us, Rome literally doesn't function. And knowing this is a mixture of pride and bitterness. Pride in being part of something greater, even without receiving the credit. Bitterness in walking the same streets as the powerful without being seen. The market where I sell my pieces is noisy, full of hurried people and heated negotiations. Sometimes, what counts isn't quality, but price. The impact of our compatriots' decisions directly impacts small businesses like me. If taxes increase, if flour becomes more expensive, everything else goes downhill. I've learned to be quick with my hands and quick with my words, trying to win over passers-by. Sometimes it works. Other times I go home with what I didn't sell, and this affects more than just my wallet. It changes how we perceive our worth. There is, however, an advantage to this constant journey: autonomy. As difficult as it may be, I have control over what I produce. The ideas I put into clay take shape and circulate throughout the city. Each piece bears a trace of myself, an identity that resists anonymity. I've seen my work in the hands of soldiers, at food stalls, and even at an offering ceremony. It's as if through the clay, my presence spreads without my needing to be there. This, for me, is a form of silent transformation. The relationship with fellow citizens, when it happens, is layered. Some ignore it, others feign interest. There's rarely any recognition, but when one of them chooses one of my pieces and pays for it with a few words, I feel like for a few seconds, our worlds intersect. These are brief moments, but charged with meaning, a kind of revelation about how the city's behind-the-scenes operations work. Luxury depends on effort that will never be applauded. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because work, besides providing a living, is also a form of expression. And as I observe the marks on my fingers, the dirt that accumulates under my nails, and the muscles that harden over time, I realize that all of this is memory in physical form. Each molded piece carries invisible decisions about time, energy, and even hope. And it is with this hope that I continue to create, even without guarantees. Comment: I'm on this journey too. After hours of work with your hands dirty with clay and your body heavy from the effort, there's a moment when Rome changes its rhythm. It's as if the city breathes more slowly, a pause between survival and the desire for a light existence. That's where free time comes in, the leisure that doesn't need gold to happen, because everyone has a way to relax, even in Rome. I usually head straight to the public baths, not just for the cleansing, but for the experience of entering another world. There, the sounds are different. Laughter, conversation, sighs of relief. The marble walls conceal stories that were never written, but which live on in the glances exchanged between those present. The warm water soothes the body, but also reveals the emotional underbelly of those immersed in tension. It's as if the gods created that space just to remind us that transformation can also come through pause. On the way between my island and the baths, I pass by the markets. I'm no longer selling, just observing. Familiar faces exchange greetings and a few words about prices or some news that arrived. From Carthage, there among the mud huts and baskets of fruit, the city reveals its hidden truths. It's in the gossip of the day that many decisions are made, even if no one notices. Relationships change, business deals dissolve, and alliances are forged, all while someone chooses the best leek or negotiates a pair of used sandals. When I'm not at the baths, I find time for games. It's not uncommon to see commoners and even soldiers gathering for simple board games. The dice roll, and with them, the tension dissipates. It's in these moments that hierarchy disappears for a time. Laughing at mistakes, competing for turns, we forget that an empire rests upon our shoulders. This isn't an escape. It's a survival strategy, a way to preserve the mind when the body no longer has much to offer. Theater is also part of this escape ritual. Even in its most popular versions, staged in squares or improvised spaces, there's something magical about watching stories bigger than our own. When actors take the stage and begin performing mythological dramas or satires about the elite, it's as if all of Rome reveals itself in metaphorical form, and each spectator for a few minutes ceases to be just part of the scenery. They become part of the plot. Mindsets shift, emotions surface, and awareness of everyday life transforms. These are the revelations that leisure can bring, that there's more to us than fatigue or our job. Free time in Rome isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. We need these respites to continue our journey, to rebalance our desires and reconnect with what makes us human. Even in a system that seems to be swallowing us, we find gaps, and in those gaps, we recreate ourselves. The choice of where to go, who to be with, how to spend the little time we have left, all of this is more important than it seems. These are small decisions that profoundly impact the way we see the world, and therein lies the hidden beauty of the Roman routine. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because leisure doesn't happen in isolation. It intertwines with the beliefs, emotions, and bonds we build. It's in the encounters between the humid walls of the hot springs, in the conversations during games, in the glances exchanged at the theater, that we create belonging. Even as commoners, we find spaces where we are not just working hands, but voices that echo with history and identity. Comment: this makes sense to me. When the sun passes mid-sky and the shadows of the Columns begin to stretch across the alleys. The stomach signals that it's time to seek sustenance again. Lunch isn't a solemn event, it's a functional one. Sometimes I find fresh vegetables at popular markets, and that's already a cause for celebration. Beans, carrots, and turnips are a constant presence. When luck strikes, a piece of fish or game meat appears, coming from some hunter who passed through early. The variety depends not only on the season, but also on the mood of the day. Even so, bread remains the star. Rustic, firm, sometimes smelling of charcoal, but always present. Eating midday carries a hidden truth. It reveals how conditioned we are to adapt desires to reality. There are no memorized menus, just quick decisions based on what's available. Garum often comes up in conversation. That dark, dense, strong-smelling sauce that Romans love. Made from fermented fish guts, salt, and thyme, it divides opinions even among the most seasoned. Some say it's the soul of Roman cuisine, others that it's the punishment of the gods. The question is, would you dare try it? Because here what matters is the impact on the palate and memory. Flavor comes along with history. There's a scene that always sticks with me. An old man arrives at the square with a clay bowl and a handful of bread, pours garum as if it were an offering, and eats while gazing at the horizon. There's no rush. It's as if, in that instant, the world stops, and he gains access to something sacred. This is the kind of mentality that permeates plebeian Rome. Food, however simple or strange it may seem, is a gateway to something greater. Connection, persistence, identity. After all, what we put in our mouths often reflects what we carry inside. I've had days when chewing was harder than going to the grocery store. Fatigue weighs heavily, but hunger speaks loudly. It's curious how a well-seasoned piece of turnip can seem like a delicacy when accompanied by good conversation. And it's these meals, shared on the stone floor among friends and neighbors, that create deep bonds. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what's on the plate, but who's there sharing the moment. These are the behind-the-scenes details of daily life that rarely appear in official accounts, but which sustain the city's soul. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because every food choice, every gesture when preparing and sharing, is a micro-decision that reveals our way of seeing the world. Garum, with its intense aroma, may seem grotesque, but it is also a symbol of tradition, resistance, and even status in certain circles. And in this ambiguity, we realize how much culture is intertwined with everyday life. The impact of a simple meal can be as transformative as a consul's speech, only silent, intimate, and revealing. Comment: this makes sense to me. While the bread rests in the stomach and the garum still dances in the olfactory memory, an aspect of Roman life emerges that cannot be seen, but is felt on every corner: faith. Not the institutionalized faith with rigid dogmas and unique rituals, but a multifaceted, flexible faith that breathes with the city's winds. Religion here is like the very fabric of Rome, full of layers, overlaps, and intersecting functions. Jupiter, the ruler of the sky, is invoked for important decisions, Mars for protection in everyday battles, Venus for matters of the heart, beauty, and fertility. Each god has a specialty, an almost tangible presence in decisive moments. It's not uncommon to see someone pause before entering a home, touch a small amulet pinned to their tunic, and murmur a quick prayer. It's as if that gesture were a secret password between the earthly world and the divine. But don't think it's just about statues in temples. The religion lived here is deeply personal, full of simple rituals that take place far from the eyes of the elite. An offering left in a corner of the garden, a small clay sculpture hidden behind a bookshelf, a promise made in the face of a sudden storm. Superstitions are part of the process. Many people don't leave home without hanging a strangely shaped pendant, believing it wards off the evil eye. Crossing an intersection with the left foot first, avoiding specific numbers when calculating the value of a trade. All of these are like an invisible code that reveals the search for protection amidst the everyday chaos. The hidden truth here is that, although it may seem like a city dominated by military reason and public policy, Rome pulses with a spirituality that resides in instinct. People pray not out of obligation, but for emotional survival. There's a collective mentality that sustains this practice. If it doesn't hurt, why not try? And in this attempt, a facet of humanity that stands the test of time is revealed, the belief that there is something greater, invisible, yet deeply present. Do you believe they truly protect us? This question echoes not only in the ceremonies, but In the silent pauses between conversations, in the suspicious look of a woman who feels she's been cheated at the market, or in the hand that touches her chest before an important announcement. And this is where we enter more intimate territory. Faith, in this context, is not about ready-made answers, but about well-formulated questions. The decision to trust Mars when a son goes hunting, or to thank Venus when reunited with a lost love, speaks volumes about how the average Roman understands the impact of divinity on their journey. There are whispered revelations at every household altar. These are the behind-the-scenes details of devotion that don't appear in history books, but shape behaviors, choices, and even the pace at which we live. Amidst the simplicity of stone houses, a spirituality pulsates that refuses to be ignored. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's something fascinating about the way these amulets and rituals blend into the city's fabric. They're not just objects, they're extensions of a mindset shaped by insecurity, hope, and the constant negotiation between fear and trust. When someone leaves an offering, they're not just asking for something, they're placing a piece of their own soul there, a silent declaration of vulnerability and faith. It's in this symbolic space that Rome reveals its most human, most fragile, most authentic side. Right there. I'm on this journey too. Night in Rome has a way of arriving. There's no complete silence. The hubbub never completely subsides, but there is a slowing down. The smoke from the oil lamps begins to rise, the footsteps in the alleys become more spaced, and the subtle aroma of a simple dinner fills the houses. I walk slowly, my tunic already covered in dust, thinking about the hours that have passed. Entering, I find the surroundings familiar. Cold stones underfoot, soft shadows on the walls, and there on the wooden table, a modest dish, perhaps a broth with leftover fish from lunch, some dried herbs, and if I'm lucky, a small piece of salted meat. But what truly nourishes me now isn't on the plate. The conversation begins shyly, gains pace, and turns into storytelling. Someone talks about the day they saw a senator trip on the steps of the Forum. Another swears their neighbor heard a whisper coming from the Temple of Vesta. Faces illuminated only by the dancing flame seem more open, more real. And there, in this space of exchange, reflections arise naturally. Because when the body relaxes and the city slows down, the mind gains voice. A young man asks if one day he might have a bigger house, with windows that catch the morning sun. An elderly man responds with a phrase that resonates more than any formal teaching. Rome is big, but where do I fit in? This question lingers. It's the kind of thought that transcends time. We're surrounded by monuments that seem eternal, but deep down, we carry doubts that are repeated generation after generation. Inequality is easily seen. In clothing, accents, even the food available. But what's truly disturbing is the feeling of invisibility. Are we part of history, or just observing it from afar? This is a hidden truth that not everyone has the courage to face, because amid the city's grandeur, many live in the shadows, dreaming of a purpose that connects them to what the eyes no longer see, but which the heart insists on seeking. Some say dreams are merely distractions from harsh reality, but here, where I live, they are the silent fuel that drives daily decisions. The girl who learned to sew to collect coins, the man who saves marble fragments, believing they will one day be used to build something of his own. Each gesture carries a hidden hope. And these small decisions shape a transformation that is rarely celebrated, but which reveals the invisible strength of those who persevere even without guarantees. The behind-the-scenes of life in Rome is not made of immediate glory, but of an almost stubborn persistence, a deep belief that there is room, yes, for everyone, even if the world says otherwise. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because how we confront these reflections by the light of a flame and within simple walls says a lot about who we are and how we see our place in the world. It's not about having grand answers, but about embracing the questions that arise in quiet moments. This journey between doubts, dreams, and discoveries is where the true construction of meaning lies, even in a scenario where everything already seems defined, because every person who dares to ask, "Where do I fit in?" is, without realizing it, redrawing the contours of the entire city. Comment: this makes sense to me. The oil in the lamp is already beginning to fade, creating shadows that dance on the walls as if guarding the day's secrets. Rome seems asleep, but it's only a pause, like someone taking a deep breath before another series of stories. I look at my tired feet wrapped in time-worn sandals, and think of the footprints I left today. Every street walked, every face seen, every word exchanged with those who live in the empire's crevices. All of this forms an intimate mosaic that few see. Walking through Rome is more than just crossing ancient stones. It's accessing the backstage of a civilization that pulses beneath the marble surface. It's funny how, when observing the details of everyday life, the city reveals itself in layers. The garum with its strange smell, the amulets hanging in the windows, the conversations by the fire. Everything seems small, almost invisible, but carries the weight of existence. It is there, in the ordinary, that true transformation resides. Not in the great battles or the imposing ceremonies, but in the silent journey of those who insist on living with dignity, even when the world isn't looking. And that's what makes this tour so special. You didn't walk with me through the imposing avenues, but through the alleys of purpose and vulnerability. Because it was in the small decisions, the broken bread, the whispered superstition, the dream confessed in the shadows, that Rome showed its most human face. Throughout that day, each encounter taught me something about mentality, about how common Romans interpret the world around them, with a perspective shaped by scarcity, but also by the courage to persist. They are not the heroes of the sculptures, but rather the ones who support the pillars of the stories to come. It's a hidden truth that time tries to hide. Great empires are not built solely by generals and senators, but by women who sew to pay for their weekly food, by old men who tell stories under the flickering light, by young people who dare to ask where they fit in such a vast universe. And this revelation has a direct impact on how we too view our journey, because in the end, it's not about glory, but about meaning. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we reflect on everything we experienced that day, on every image and sensation, we realize that this journey was not just a historical reconstruction, but a way of understanding ourselves. Each sandal that steps on the ruins carries doubts, hopes, and choices. And perhaps at the end of this journey, what remains is not just knowledge, but connection with a people, with a culture, with an essence that transcends time and resonates in every decision we make today. What kind of history are we building with our own steps? Comment, this makes sense to me. And if you've made it this far with me, I want you to know how special it has been to share this journey with you. Every detail we've brought to light, the simple foods, the silent gods, the dreams whispered by oil light, holds much more than curiosities. It's a subtle reflection of our own journeys. If this dive into Roman routine touched you in any way, it's worth following the next chapters of this journey with me. Subscribe to the channel because there's much more content coming. And if this video added value to you, if something resonated with you and made you think, leaving a like helps us continue bringing stories that connect past and present with lightness and depth. And to make this meeting last, comment, I'm with you until the end. There's a video here that complements everything we experienced. Click and stay with me there.